So, over the past year, something pretty extraordinary has been happening at the very top of China's military. We're talking about more than a dozen of the most powerful generals in the People's Liberation Army just vanishing, gone without a trace.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? Why are China's most powerful generals just disappearing? Are we looking at some kind of political power struggle? Are they traitors? Or is there something way deeper, something systemic going on? To really get a handle on this, you gotta see just how fast it all went down.
Okay, look at this. In just over a year, Xi Jinping's entire hand-picked military leadership. I mean, these are the guys he personally chose for his historic third term. They were just taken apart. It started with the defense minister, but it went all the way up to the vice chairman, even his supposed childhood friend, Zhang Yoxia. Poof, gone. This isn't some simple reshuffle, you know? This is a complete gutting of the entire high command.
All right, so whenever you have generals vanishing like this, the first thing people start whispering about is, coups and conspiracies. It's just natural. So let's start right there with the most sensational theories. Were these guys actually traitors? Were they plotting against Xi? Okay, so rumor number one, and this was a big one, it even made headlines in the Wall Street Journal, was that General Zhang Yusha, we're talking the top military officer in the whole country, was a spy. That he was selling secrets to the United States. I mean, that is a wild claim. But the question is, does it actually hold up to scrutiny? Well, when you really start to dig into it, the logic just falls apart. I mean, think about it. Why would he do it? For money? These top generals in China can have fortunes worth billions. For a new life in America, the guy was in his 70s, at the absolute peak of power in his own country. It just doesn't add up. In fact, a lot of experts think this story might have been planted by Beijing itself, to give them a believable excuse for getting rid of him. Okay, so if the whole spy story seems pretty unlikely, what about theory number two? A good old-fashioned power struggle. Were these generals planning a coup to take down Xi Jinping? Now, to see why a coup is almost impossible, you really have to understand how China's military is set up. It's different. See, in the West, the state controls the military. In China, the Communist Party controls the military. And to make sure of that, every single unit has a political officer, a commissar, and their one and only job is to watch the commander. It's like having a babysitter 24/7. So trying to move troops without permission, it's basically impossible. And this is where the whole coup theory really hits a wall. Because, you see, these weren't Xi's enemies or rivals. These were his guys. He hand-picked them. They were chosen to lead his big, unprecedented third term. So you have to ask yourself, why would his most trusted allies, men who owed their entire careers to him, suddenly turn around and try to overthrow him? It makes no sense. So if it's not a spy plot and it's not a coup, what in the world is really going on here? Well, the answer is somehow both less dramatic and, in a way, a whole lot more shocking. And it all starts with the official boilerplate reason they always give. Right. Every single time one of these high-level officials disappears, the government puts out the exact same super vague statement. They're being investigated for serious violations of discipline and law. Now, if you're not familiar with Communist Party lingo, let me translate. That is 100% code for one thing: corruption. And that's the real heart of the matter. This purge, it isn't really about betrayal or political loyalty. It's about a military that has become so unbelievably corrupt, so rotten from the inside out, that it might not even be able to fight anymore. And the most jaw-dropping evidence for this comes from what should be their most advanced unit, the rocket force. Okay, get ready for this, because the reports coming out are just staggering. We're hearing about missile silo lids that were so poorly built they physically can't open. About intercontinental ballistic missiles, their ultimate weapon, being filled with water instead of liquid fuel. And maybe the most insane one, rocket fuel being siphoned off and sold to be used for hot pot dinners. It sounds like a joke, right? But it points to a level of decay that is just mind-boggling. So how on earth does it get this bad? Well, the answer really lies in China's unique system, something people call red capitalism. Just think about it. The Communist Party has total control over everything: the political system, the courts, the army, and the entire economy. When there are absolutely no checks and balances, political power just directly translates into personal wealth.
And when political power and economic power are fused like that, you get what some analysts have started calling a red mafia phenomenon. Power itself becomes the main tool for getting rich. Contracts, promotions, military resources, you name it, it's for sale. This isn't about a few bad apples. It's a deep structural problem. The graft is built right into the bones of the system.
And all of this puts Xi Jinping himself in a really tough spot. I mean, he has this grand dream of a powerful, modern military. But he's waking up to a reality that must be absolutely terrifying for him. Look, Xi has been very clear. He wants his military ready for a potential war over Taiwan by 2027. But how can you possibly launch an invasion when your missiles might be full of water? When your top generals care more about their bank accounts than they do about winning a war? He's poured a fortune into modernizing his military, only to find out he might have just built a very expensive paper tiger.
The scale of this purge is just stunning. Let's look at the Central Military Commission. This is the group of 7 guys who run the entire military. A year ago, it was Xi and his dream team. But today, all 5 of the actual field commanders are gone, purged. The only people left are Xi and his top anti-corruption cop. The whole operational command structure of the military just wiped out.
So what does all this mean for the rest of us? I mean, it's easy to look at this and think, hey, a weaker, more corrupt Chinese military, that's a good thing, right? But the reality is actually way more complicated and maybe a lot more dangerous. Think about it. By getting rid of all his experienced commanders, Xi has basically created a giant echo chamber for himself. He's fired the only people who had the experience and maybe the guts to tell him the hard truth about how messed up his military really is. So who's left to tell him, hey, maybe this war is a bad idea? The answer might be nobody. And that brings us to the great paradox in all of this. A military this corrupt probably can't win a major war, but that doesn't mean it won't start one. When you have a leader who's cut off from reality, who's surrounded by people who only tell him what he wants to hear, that's when catastrophic miscalculations happen. So in the end, the fact that China's military is weak doesn't mean we can all relax. It might actually make the world a much more unpredictable and much more dangerous place. With his entire command staff gone and his personal legacy on the line, the big unsettling question we're all left with is, what will an isolated Xi Jinping do next?